guys. Hey, welcome to the podcast. We are going to do a solo episode. Now, I did not really plan this episode, but my girls are with their dad. It is President's Day, so it's a holiday. So I got an extra day off, which is amazing. But I have a little bit of extra time before all hell breaks loose tomorrow when work starts again. The girls are back. I'm also going on a trip next. I'm going down town on Thursday with some mom creators that I met through Instagram. So I'm going to be gone this next weekend. Anyway, my point is that it is going to be extremely busy. This is like the last little bit of calm before the storm. So I thought I'm going to record a solo episode. Today on my Instagram stories, I asked you guys what topics you wanted me to cover. One person recommended or wanted me to talk about my egg donation experience. So I haven't talked a lot about this. I think over the years I've mentioned it like in my Q&A, and honestly I kind of forgot that I even did it because it's been so long. So let's just talk about it. Let's talk. So I'm going to pull up my notes here on my phone so I don't forget things I want to talk about. Also, I just kind of wanted to hang out in my living room. I'm hoping the audio is going to be okay because I have these tall ceilings and yeah, I don't know if that's going to change anything. Also, Tulo is right here. I'm praying that he doesn't start barking. He's done that a couple episodes with Gus, which has been so embarrassing. So yeah, let's just pray that he behaves himself. Okay, guys. So, all right, let's talk about egg donation. So I donated my eggs when I can't remember how old I was. It was like early 20s, maybe even like 19, maybe like 19, 20, 21, like right around there. I did it, I think 3 times. I didn't do it back to back. I did it, I like waited a year or so like between each donation cycle. Um, but I did do it 3 times. Why did I do it? So I decided I wanted to donate my eggs because I've always felt like I wanted to do something in this life to help people. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to help people, but I always just wanted to do something to change someone's life. And my great aunt on my mom's side struggled with infertility. She never was able to have kids. And this was back, she got married probably in like, if I had to guess, like the 30s or the 40s. So this was a long time ago before there was like IVF and any type of like treatment. Totally guessing here. Anyway, she wasn't able to have kids, but she was very motherly. She felt like my grandma. And so just thinking about her own experience, I know that there's women out there that struggle to have kids. Their egg quality isn't good. And so I just kind of wanted to do my part to do something to change someone's life. It was something I could do that really didn't take anything away from me. If you guys don't know, so all women are born with all of their eggs that they will have in their lifetime. So what happens is every month when you have your menstrual cycle, you release your eggs. And I'm probably just describing this completely wrong. It's very basic, but basically what I'm trying to get at is that it doesn't cost you anything to like donate your eggs. You're not giving away something that you would be using otherwise, because unless you get pregnant, you're not using those eggs. So those eggs are just discarded. So I wanted to do it. There was a fertility clinic pretty close to where I grew up, and went in for a consult. The whole process, you have to be screened first, and you have to give them like your full medical history, your family history, things like that, including like education and, medical, things like that. So you go through that whole process. You create like a profile. They approve you if you're able to donate your eggs based on like what's on your medical history. I imagine maybe there's some people who aren't in good health that can't do it. I don't know, but I was approved. Let's see. What else do I want to say? Oh yeah, so once you're approved and you have a profile with a fertility clinic, then people who go to that clinic who potentially are looking, they need an egg donor in order to have a baby, they will look at your profile. They'll like go through all the profiles, I guess, of the egg donors, and they will choose, if they choose your profile, then you get a call from the fertility doctor, or the fertility clinic. And then from there, and you're selected, you will do cycle tracking. So that process is like, just basically sorry, basically tracking your menstrual cycle. They put me on birth control so that they would know when I was going to ovulate. And if I remember right, guys, this was like 15 years ago, probably, roughly. So I'm trying to remember like all the pieces. But yeah, so I did like cycle tracking. I think I was on birth control for like one full cycle, and then I think it was the next cycle that they like started the hormones. I can't remember at what point I had to start the hormones, but they gave me very explicit instructions on like exactly what to do, when to take my birth control, when I needed to come in for appointments, like what type of hormones like I needed to take and when, and like all these things. Like they give you literally everything. They spell it out for you. You can call your coordinator any time of day. They're like on call. You can talk to them at any time. So, and they're checking in with you. So I started taking the hormones. They were injections. So I just had to like give myself a shot basically. It didn't hurt at all. I think it was just one. Oh my God, you guys, I should have like thought more about this, but I'm pretty sure it's like one, maybe two different shots. I don't know. Maybe only one. I can't remember. Anyway, okay. So the purpose of the hormones is basically just to give your eggs, like make more of your eggs available for, fertilization, basically. So they're trying to like increase the number of follicles that can, be basically like impregnated and like end up making a baby. Because once they take your eggs, they will mix it with the sperm, I guess. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, so I'm not explaining it like 100% correctly, but just like in layman's terms. So yeah, okay, so we so you do the hormones, go through the process. You do go in for like quite a bit of blood work. They also go in with ultrasounds, and they will measure the follicles that you have. So they track throughout your cycle how the follicles are progressing, basically, and how many like good follicles that you have. When it comes time to, do the, I don't know, do they call it extraction? When they do the extraction, you go in for surgery. So they had, so I went into surgery. I think that I can't remember if it's scheduled or if it's kind of like they only give you like a 24-hour notice. I can't remember, but basically you just go in for like the extraction. You go out, they give you the anesthesia, and then just like take out the eggs. And I don't know what that process is like because obviously I was under anesthesia, so I wasn't awake. You don't have an incision or anything like that. They go up, vaginally to get the eggs. And yeah. And then I think after, if I remember right, the recovery after the hormones or after the surgery, sorry, was just like a little bit of cramping. but it wasn't for me. My side effects, I'm sure everyone is a little different. For me, it did not, I didn't have really any bad side effects. I think it was just like mainly like a little bit of cramping and maybe some light bleeding, but really it wasn't like too bad for me at all. Each time that I did it. Um trying to think what else. Oh yeah, symptoms during like or side effects I was having while taking hormones. Maybe I'm misremembering because this was so long ago. But I don't really remember having any negative side effects. I think maybe the same, just increase in like bloating and I don't know. I really cramping. I don't really remember any negative side effects, to be honest with you. Again, I might be misremembering. Maybe we should ask my ex-husband, like if how my mood was during that time. Oh, also speaking of my ex-husband, they they were like, you cannot have sex during this time when you are having these hormones. And they were very explicit. And they were like, if you have sex during this window, you will get pregnant and you will get pregnant with multiples. Like multiples meaning like 4 or 5. You could get pregnant with like 4 or 5 babies. So like you cannot have sex. And I think I remember after, I could totally be wrong, but if I remember right, I think after the hormones and the donation part of it, I'm pretty sure they were like, you can't have sex for like 90 days or something because I think your hormone level, the hormones are like still in your body. And so I think your hormone, like it can affect, pregnancy if you end up getting pregnant. And I'm pretty sure it was 90 days. Obviously, if you're going to go through the egg donation process, these are all things that you'll, you know, be covered on and you can ask questions on. But if I remember right, that's how that happened. Um, let's see, what else do I want to talk about for okay, how much money did I make doing the egg donation? So each time I did this, again, this was like between like 10 and 15 years ago, I made $3,500 each time. And I know that from my understanding, it varies for location and it's probably, I don't know what the going rate is now because again, this was a long time ago, but that's how much they paid me at the time. I didn't really need the money at the time. The money was just a bonus. Again, I donated my eggs because I just wanted to help people. All of this happened also before ancestry.com and 23andme. So what happened is like when you donate your eggs, you are anonymous. You're an anonymous donor to the recipients of the eggs, and the couple is also anonymous to me as well. Like I don't know who ended up using my eggs. I do know that they were used. They've never told me if there was ever a successful pregnancy, how many successful pregnancies. I do know each time I donated, like they got quite a few follicles, and they could freeze them and then end up using them. So like if let's say a couple uses my eggs, they're like buying, I think like every follicle that they get in that cycle. So then they can freeze the follicles that they don't use and then they could use them again later if they wanted to have like a sibling. But I don't know if there was any successful like 2-term pregnancies. They don't disclose that. I also signed a contract saying that I did not want my information disclosed. So let's say that there was a child who was born from my eggs once they turn 18, and let's say that they did want to know who their biological mother was. I said that I did not want my information disclosed. And that's really just because even though I'm a donor and like biologically they would be like my, like my DNA, I'm not their parent. I would never want to take someone's, I would never want to take the actual parents who raised that child, their place, And I just didn't really feel like I wanted that. So I signed that contract saying, like, no, I don't want my information disclosed ever, even to the child when they're 18, and have the right, like maybe they have their own like abilities and maybe would want that. I said no. But now we all know with like 23andMe and Ancestry.com, there's all of these stories of people who are finding their biological parents through these services. So I don't know. We'll see one day. Maybe there will be, someone knocking on my door who connects with me or is, matches with my DNA. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I didn't know about that before. It wasn't really a thing back then. Or it wasn't as widespread, even if it was a thing. So I'm actually kind of curious like what that process looks like now, like if that's talked about when you're going through the egg donor process. um because I feel like that kind of would defer people from donating their eggs, just because I don't think that people donate their eggs. I think there's two people who donate eggs. One, there's people who donate eggs because for the financial reasons, because they do pay you like a pretty good amount of money, so it's a nice way to make some extra income if you're a college student or something like that. So you can make a good amount of money doing it. And I think you can donate up to 6 times, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think that's what the amount was when I donated my eggs. And then the second type of person is like someone like me who just like wants to do some good in the world and is like, yeah, might as well. Like it's almost like just like charity work. You want to just like help people out. I guess there's probably a third reason why people donate eggs. Maybe if you want to help like a family member. I know for myself, like if my sister wasn't able to have her own, if her eggs were not healthy enough to get pregnant with, I know I would do that for a family member, like no question. So I guess there's some people out there that might do it for that reason. But I think if you're just donating, yeah, if you don't know the people, like I think most people do not want their information disclosed. So I don't know, guys. We will see what happens with that. Just make sure to follow me for the next 10 to 15 years to find out. I'm just kidding. Okay, guys. Well, I think that pretty much like wraps up the donor process. I think one of these days, like I'm gonna want to have someone on the podcast, maybe a doctor or a nurse, and maybe even if you guys know someone who has been a recipient of egg donation, maybe that would be a really interesting conversation to have, to see on the other side, like what that whole process was like. Um, that would be super interesting. And I also, I mean, over the years, not now, but when I was younger, before I was married and had my own kids, I definitely considered surrogacy, because just for that same reason, like just being able to help someone who normally wouldn't be able to have a baby. Like, I just don't know a better gift that you could give someone. And truly, anyone who is a surrogate is incredible. Um, and I do know that the compensation for surrogates as well is pretty high. So I know there, so when I worked at a restaurant, there was one of my coworkers, she was like an assistant manager. I think she had been a surrogate a couple of times, and she already had 2 kids of her own, but she just did it just to help support her family. I'm sure that there were other reasons as well, but I think she did it a couple of different times. And so that's always like a good way, if you want to give back or you want to make some extra income. Obviously, that's a huge freaking sacrifice when you're sacrificing your body. And we all know what it's like to be pregnant. And some people have easier pregnancies than others. And there's certain risks that go. And, there's just a lot of different things. So I did consider surrogacy, but never ended up doing it, because that is a big commitment. And I got to the point where I wanted to have my own family. I got married. My ex-husband, he wasn't too sure. He was like supportive of the egg donation, but I remember talking about surrogacy, and he was just, I don't think he knew enough about it, and we didn't talk about it seriously enough to like get into it, but I think he was like, "Oh, I don't know if like that you should really like do that." And again, like I didn't pursue it further or like really consider it more than that. Um okay guys, well that just about covers it on the surrogacy piece, but yeah, this was a fun impromptu solo episode for the podcast moving forward. So I had mentioned this before, but I am still trying to navigate the best way to release episodes. When I first started the podcast, I wanted to do like a guest interview and then solo guest, solo get, like I wanted to have that cadence. But then I booked a lot of guests that I was so excited for, and I didn't want to wait to release their episode. I also wasn't sure, um, as far as, I just didn't really know, like when podcasters do interviews, do they really wait 6 to 8 weeks to release an episode? And apparently they do in a lot of cases. So I'm like, so I feel like I now have permission to have just like a bank of interviews, and when I want to come on the podcast and just like talk about something impromptu, I feel like I can do that now. So yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing like that regular cadence of like every other week having a solo episode, and then on the off weeks do the guest interviews. But I'm sure like it will kind of ebb and flow. Like maybe sometimes we'll do back to back interviews. I don't know. We're just over here just trying to figure it all out as we go. But so far, like I'm loving, loving, loving the podcast. I'm getting more comfortable in interviews. I don't feel as nervous. It feels more natural, I would say, at this point. And yeah, I think everything is going really good. It's a fun outlet, and I'm super excited. I'm going to start booking some new guests for kind of the second leg of the podcast. And yeah, I'm super excited to just keep going, guys. All right. Well, I will go ahead and wrap up this episode, but just wanted to thank you all for joining and listening in today. If you know anyone who is a recipient of an egg donor, maybe even like a surrogate, has been a surrogate, hired a surrogate, is a fertility doctor, send me their information, because I want to have a guest interview talking more about this, because it's just such an interesting topic to me. So shoot me a DM with that information, and we will talk next week. Bye.